Okay. Okay. Welcome everyone to Team VoxXNation's Monday night training call for Monday, November the 18th, 2019. I'm Jen Moyer, and it is my pleasure to host the call this evening for Terry St. Amman, who's off gallivanting in the warm weather. And it is my absolute pleasure tonight to introduce a lady who I've known for a few years now. Met in person a few times at some of the conferences and things like that. Carla Archer, who is joining us from British Columbia, Canada. Carla and her husband Punch worked the VoxxLife business together, and I won't go into too much detail because I know Carla has an absolute amazing presentation for all of you and all of us, myself included. And I have my notebook and my pen ready to take some notes because this is definitely going to be a presentation that is noteworthy. So welcome, Carla, and thank you so much for offering and volunteering to do some training with the team tonight. And so I am going to...
Well, thank you for that, Jen. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited. And thank you for everybody who tuned in to listen to some of my tips that I'm going to give tonight on things that have helped me with my business through my 3 years with VoxxLife.
Mm-hmm. So I've made you the host.
Okay.
So you should have all the controls now. I think there might be a couple of people that are unmuted still. So if we get any interference, Carla, it might be you that has to mute them.
Okay, so
all right.
Kind of like we did this afternoon, I'm going to open my presentation, and if something like that happens, just let me know because I can't see the little pictures. And if there's any questions, just
yeah, I'll follow the chat.
That sounds great. All right. Well, thank you again, like I said, everybody, for joining us tonight. Tonight, I'm going to give you my top 10 tips for building a successful foundation for your VoxxLife business. I love this little picture because it shows the couch and it shows this little guy climbing up, and it's exactly that. Success doesn't come to you, you go to it. So for those of you who don't know me or are wondering why or who I am and why I'm giving you guys some tips tonight, that's a really fair question. So just a little bit of history about myself. I've been a member of the VoxxLife team for just under 3 years now. I come to VoxxLife with no previous network marketing experience like many of you in the field. I do not have a sales background. My husband and I do have another business, which we had started about 10 months prior to joining VoxxLife, with some sales component to that, but we were not salesperson people for that either. So we don't have a lot of experience before we started. My extent of leadership experience, was leading group fitness classes. The only person I knew in VoxxLife was my upline when I first joined. I do not consider myself an influencer in my social circle, and at heart, I am an introvert. So if any of these things kind of resonate with you, maybe tonight some of my tips you will find of value. I just wanted to get you familiar with who I am and why I'm talking to you and where I come from, so you know where I'm sort of building from as well. So we've heard a lot of different, if you will, kind of cliches or whatever you would like to call them. And I'd like to demystify a few of those for you. And this is what I've learned along my journey with VoxxLife so far. And my tip number one is, what's your why? So we hear about figuring out what your why is all the time. And you know what, truly, this is 100% true and the key to the success. So it is really important. It is the gas in our tanks, and it's what keeps us moving forward. And getting connected with your why or your whys, and I highly encourage you to write them down. And it's an evergreen thing, so it can be changing. Maybe this month you want to have a great birthday party for your kid, or you want to make an extra payment on your mortgage, or you want to help 20 people, and it may ever be changing what you're doing. So really get connected with it, because without knowing what your why is, you really don't have a reason for action. And so this keeps you motivated on those days when you might not be feeling so motivated. It keeps you focused on your end goal. It may be connecting to something that's going to help somebody else, which sometimes can be a motivator for us too. And humans innately do not act without purpose, so it's really important to figure out what your why is. Jay had done some amazing training for us at conference. Billy, that was in Toronto that he had talked to us, or Niagara Falls, and he's also done that on a recording in one of the calls. And I highly recommend, if you haven't watched it or it's been a while, watch it again, because he does a fantastic job about talking about what your why is. And that was really, really a good presentation for me to hear and to really get connected with those reasons. So that's my number one tip. Number two tip is caring and sharing, making this your motto. Now, for many people and a lot of my team members who have come in, conversations we've had is that I'm not a salesperson. I don't want to be salesy or push the product on other people. And for a lot of this can kind of be a hang up and can kind of deter us from being comfortable doing our business. So how many of you have thought this or are thinking this right now? Probably quite a few. Or you know people in your organization who are thinking this way and you don't really know what to say to them. Well, here's something that I think about. I think about what brought me to VoxxLife. And if you take a minute and think about what brought you to VoxxLife, probably unlikely that it was somebody going, step right up to my booth and I have some magical product that you should try and wear and this is going to just change your entire life. It was probably an education or somebody asking you if you've heard about it before. Or maybe it was a family member or a friend who said, hey, you know what? I've tried this and it really worked for me and I'm involved with this company. Maybe it's something you would want to try. So when we connect with what brought us to VoxxLife, it can go back and change that perception about having to be this pushy salesperson, because that likely was not how you were introduced to the product and really isn't how you should share the product either. Now, that's not our culture within VoxxLife. We don't encourage that. We encourage having a conversation, the caring and sharing as your motto, as I mentioned, and that's really something to attach yourself to. I know about 1% of what's going on Facebook, really honestly, but I've learned some interesting things about social media algorithms as well, and that we are not as popular as we think that we are. Because oftentimes this can be a bit of a hang up for people too, is that, well, you know what, I don't want to be like pushy and people and my family and friends always seeing stuff about my business and VoxxLife. And there's a lot to learn about pre-engagement, your social behaviors, which gives you exposure on Facebook. So although you may use Facebook as a tool, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are always going to be seeing your messaging. And one other thing that we really encourage too within VoxxLife, which I love, is, you know, trying to stay away from amateur marketing and box vomiting, as Paul had sort of dubbed. And he has a really great training video in VoxxNation that I encourage everybody to watch and learn about creating curiosity posts and about creating an image of you rather than you about your product. That's really changed my perception of being on Facebook. I know that was kind of something for me that I wasn't 100% comfortable with. And now that I've really learned, you know, the better way of doing it and a good way to connect with people, and through some of the Ray Higdon training that I've been taking, understanding how that whole system works, be it Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media platform that you're using, it kind of changes everything. So your perception about what you're doing will change your behavior. And when you get comfortable with what you're doing because you're viewing it in a different way, I really found that changed everything for me. And when we take the forethought of thinking about not selling and about educating people about our product, that became really comfortable for me too. I do a lot of trade shows, so I will say to people, hey, you know what, we are a new product in the market. If you hadn't heard about us, would you be okay if I told you a little bit about it? And be okay with them not purchasing something. I'll give them a card and say, you know, we're just here to educate people, so thanks very much for listening to me. If I can help you in the future, just let me know. So, you know, it's really about planting those seeds, as we hear so often. It's really, really true. One thing that Ray Higdon said the other day in Rank Makers, and I really love this, because if we are feeling a little bit uncomfortable still with the approach, he says, look for the opportunity to make people feel special. Pretend everyone has a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. And I really love that, because that kind of like disrupts everything and it makes that human connection there. And it's really about that individual, not about what you have or what you're selling. It's about connecting with them and seeing maybe what their needs are. So this was a really great post that was shared the other day, and I believe it was Vaccination, and I really rung true, and I thought, oh, that's great, you know, because it is so true when we're feeling that way, that it's about selling product. It's about helping people to become the best version of themselves and showing them how to become healthier and more vibrant. So I really, really love that one. And I've saved that one and put that on my little vision board so that I remind myself, you know, if I'm ever feeling maybe a little bit uncomfortable, that, you know, this is really fundamentally what we are doing. This was a good post that I just saw the other day too, as I was putting together my PowerPoint presentation, and it's how to sell, and that you are not trying to convince them of anything, that you're trying to show them that you are going to make their lives easier. And there was a recent post again shared, I think Joanne actually had just shared it the other day, about Allie Anderson's post of her 5 questions to ask people to get to know them and get them kind of connecting and thinking. So doing it this way is really a win-win for everybody. So if you haven't seen that post, I encourage you to go take a look for it. Those 5 questions are really good, and the reasons why you would be asking those 5 questions. So my number 3 tip that's really helped me is know what it takes and what to expect. Now, never having been in network marketing before, I had no idea what it took, and I had no idea what to expect. So it was like walking in a whole other planet, and I was like, I don't know what direction I'm supposed to be going. But then I really had to think about it and think, have you ever started anything and knew everything about it? And sometimes I think that's where the frustration can come from for a lot of people, is that they expect to roll into this business and just be able to do it and to be successful, and that doesn't happen, and maybe they become deflated about that. Well, this is really no different than anything else. The expression goes, try to eat an elephant in one bite. You can't do it. You know, it takes time. It takes little pieces, little bites of information, little bites of experience, and that's what builds and grows and makes your business. So how does this industry work? Well, I certainly really recommend that you read the 4-year career. Now, I joined in March of 2017, and in December of 2017, I read the 4-year career, and it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So everything that I'd sort of been, you know, muddling through and trying to figure out to know if I was doing this right or what to expect, all sort of came together for me in that great little book. I think it's like 112 pages long. It took me, you know, not even half an afternoon to read through it. And then it was like a big sigh of relief that I went, okay, I got this. This is like, you know, this is what I'm supposed to be sort of expecting. Having never been in network marketing before, it gave me a really good understanding of how this animal works and how I need to work within this system. It's great to have your why, absolutely, as we discussed before. Know what you want, know what you're working for. But I love the expression about marrying the process and divorcing the outcome. Because once we know what that is, just get really attached to the process of getting there, and that it's going to take some time. I love that too about the 4-year career, because truly it does take time. If you've never been in this sort of business, you're not an influencer, you don't have people that you've brought in maybe from other organizations, and even so, at whatever level that you're at, you know, you're still working at it all the time, and there's kind of, I think it's kind of the same kind of routine for everybody. So again, that was really, really helpful. Use the plethora of tools that are available. I have to say that this is one thing that I've enjoyed so much about being part of VoxxLife, is that everybody is so willing to share. We have information nights like tonight, our corporate calls, going to conferences, the back office, and then going externally at VoxxLife and on the internet, be it Ray Higdon or Mel Robbins or whichever influencer that you connect to and relate to. There is no end to tools that are available for you. I truly believe that educating yourself about what you're doing, the products that you have, how they work, is really, really key too, because that's going to allow you to posture yourself a lot better and is a great investment. So I love this little picture here too. The summit is what drives us, but the climb itself is what matters. So again, marry the process and divorce the outcome. This is a little picture that was in the 4-year career book, and this is a visual in my mind all the time, also on my vision board. And there are days where I sit back and go, wow, I really pushed that car hard up the hill today, or, you know, I got to keep pushing, because when you look at the blocks of time as I'm rolling into my 3rd year in this network marketing business, I'm really seeing that this is exactly true. as my business is growing, my foundation as a participant in this business is growing, my successes are growing as well, and I'm really excited. I'm excited to see when that car is going to start to cruise down the hill in a little while. So this one really helped me stay in check. All right, tip number 4. If you want to achieve your goals, you need the right mindset. Personal development, it is absolutely invaluable. So there may be a lot of people out there who were like me, and I understand the concept of personal development. It's not like I've never done personal development in my life before, but I don't think I gave it the priority that it really actually needs. I would save my personal development for maybe the end of the day when I was tired. I'd have 10 minutes to read, or I'd think I was going to have half an hour, but I'm so tired and I read a bit and I fall asleep, and then it's not really absorbing. But it really takes you taking ownership of you to do this business right. And you're the one who's doing all of the work. So personal development should be looked at as work and should be considered as such. Part of what my problem was before, if you will say a problem, is that I'm kind of a busy person. So if I'm not actually moving, actioning something, I don't really feel like that's doing work. So I would sometimes, as I mentioned, not prioritize that personal development as much as it should have been. But I quickly learned that investing in yourself is the best investment that you will ever make. Because where else can you invest that you can get such a beneficial return? And keep in mind that you are your CEO of your company. You're your best employee, your human resources, your customer service, your sales department, your shipping and warehousing department. You are your business. So you need to invest in you. Now I tell you this, and I told you my little bit of history about not prioritizing that as much as I should have. I had a coach, and she was really influential with me to help direct me to value personal development a little bit more. And I started going, okay, yeah, I see that. And I started introducing it a little bit more. And I don't tell you this story for empathy, but I tell you this story because if perhaps you don't have to go through the same experience to get you to realize how significant personal development is if you haven't already. This past winter, I had severely injured my back and my leg and my hip. And for about 6 weeks, I was pretty much unable to walk. I spent a lot of time laying around, not moving, in a lot of pain and discomfort. So what better to do when you're laying around all the time but to start looking at some personal development? And I quickly realized the immense value of what I was doing and that time that I spent on my personal development, and how much better of a business person and a human that I was becoming by doing so. So as I said, I tell you this story simply so that maybe your universe or your God or whatever you believe directs us and guides us doesn't have to give you a sort of kick in the butt like it gave me to get me to the place where I needed to go to learn how valuable personal development really is. All right, so tip number 5. Time management. Now, I don't know how many of you guys out there have a problem with squirrels. I have a serious squirrel problem sometimes, and I think most of us do. And I've really come to learn how using your time effectively as possible is so key. And that this is a process and is a habit, and it has to be built and worked on just like a muscle. So for me, this is probably the muscle that I need the most work with. But I have to tell you that learning to do this will fundamentally change your business, and it is so key. So what you focus on is what you feel, and where your focus goes is where your energy flows, and it's absolutely true. So some of the things that I learned and now that I'm implementing, and where I sort of started with all of this, was figuring out what the tasks were or the actions are that I needed to be focused on that would move my business forward. Because it was easy to sit down and be working all day, but not really achieving what I needed to. And also, when you actually know what it is that you need to get done to move your business forward, when you have an hour, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is to put towards your VoxxLife business, you're not wasting time trying to think about, well, what should I be doing today? You go, yep, I know what those priorities are, and I need to start looking at them. From there, my exercise then became taking those lists of top priorities and on a daily basis creating a schedule. Because a lot of us will say we're really, really busy, but when we actually start looking at our time schedule, there are a lot of pockets of time that we can use if getting to our why is really something that we want to do, hard and fast. So we need to look at that too, because we can get up half an hour early, or maybe there's 15 minutes here or there where we could be more in tune with our time and how we're using it and be more effective with it if we so choose to do that. So at first, what I was doing was then making a list of my time I had available and putting in the actions that I wanted to accomplish during my day. And then I was getting a little bit depressed about the whole situation because I won't say I'm a hyper overachiever, but that kind of stuff kind of, I get attached to that. And then I'd say to my coach, but I only got one thing done and now I feel like a bit of a loser. And she says, don't feel like a loser about it, because you made your list, you identified, you made this schedule, and you got a couple things done. That's a win. Now we're going to keep building on that. So it's no different again than building a muscle. You just keep working at it. So then the next time I would keep doing it, and then it becomes that habit. So now most days, and it's still something that I work with, but has become so much better. I'm making my schedule. I'm trying to stick to it as much as I possibly can, and I've become far more effective. What I really realized is that when I'm not using my schedule, how ineffective I am and how much I actually miss being that habitual about what I'm doing and how much more effective I am. So for me, this was probably the hardest thing for me to work on, the hardest thing to be consistent with, but the one thing that has impacted me the most, and that I really strongly encourage anybody who maybe is struggling with this to start working on, and to be okay that not every day is going to be perfect and you're not going to get everything done on your list, and that maybe even some days you're going to skip it a couple times and not do it at all, just depending. But Ray Higdon has really been teaching us too, about that consistency of the habit and you making those decisions, and I really enjoy that. So one thing too that I learned was to live in reaction, not living in action. And what that means, or pardon, the other way around, don't live in reaction, live in action. Yeah, sorry about that. So reaction is described as, say if you have a task in hand that you want to be doing and your phone goes off and you get a phone call or you get a message on Messenger or a text and you stop and do that. They say on average it takes 90 seconds to recover from that interruption, in addition to the time that you spent on that. So if you have a limited time frame to work on whatever task that it is that you're doing, every time that you break, you're losing time, you're losing focus to get back. So schedule those things in if that's part of the top priority of things that you need to get done. But either turn your phone off or put it on vibrate or tell your family or whatever the case may be, this is my time to work, and remain in action, because you will get far more done and accomplished by doing that and not breaking out every time that there's a little something that distracts your attention. Also, there's a difference between being busy and being productive, and keeping that in mind, because being productive is getting the things done that are going to make a difference to your business, and being busy is acting like a squirrel and chasing things around all over the place. And it's okay if you do it once in a while, don't worry, but it's just about being aware. And there's often times where I'll say, Carla, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know, you better get back to work now. So I have to be my own parent sometimes and discipline myself a little bit and check in with myself and go, get back to work, like stop playing around over there and let's get back to work. So focus on being productive instead of being busy. And that was really big for me because I was really busy all the time, but not necessarily productive until I started implementing some of that. So tip number 6, look in the mirror, not out the window. So what does that mean? So with social media or within the business or just with anything in life, really, sometimes it's really easy to look at other people and feel sort of deflated or go, well, I'm not having that much success, and geez, I wish I was doing that, or whatever the case may be. So really ask yourself, what am I doing consistently to create my results? And I actually have this written on a whiteboard in my office, because if I ever have one of those moments and I go, oh, geez, look at, I'm having trouble pushing my car up the hill today, and, whatever the case may be, and okay, maybe I'm feeling sorry for myself. I look at that message and then I say to myself, but really, Carla, what are you doing consistently to create those results that person is? And if I'm being really honest, maybe that week I just wasn't as consistent as I should have been. And remember, keeping in mind it's all a process, but be honest with yourself and get real and take responsibility for that. That's the best advice that I have and that I've been doing, because I can look at that and I can go, now, you know what? You're right. well, I'm not doing something consistently to create these results. And if I want to be that person or have those successes, then I need to start doing that more frequently. And then I just check in with myself and on I move. My coach told me this one thing, and this kind of stuck with me. And I hope it sticks with you if you haven't heard of it before, and it would help. But she said, you can either be pitiful or you can be powerful, but you cannot be both. And I went, oh my God, you're right. You know, you can't. And it doesn't mean that you can't have moments where you feel pitiful, if you will. But then you quickly realize that you're feeling that way. And I'll say to myself, okay, well, how long are we going to hang out here for? Because we've got some work to do, and it's, you know, time to get powerful. And when you think of the word powerful, it doesn't just mean like overbearing and super strong. It means I'm powerful enough within myself to recognize that and to make a choice about what I want to do and how I want to feel. So self-talk is a real game changer. And that was one that I really, really loved. And I was like, wow, that's good. I like it. So I thought I'd share it with you guys. The more that you recognize these pitfalls as well and challenge yourself to think a little bit differently, you tend to bounce back quicker. You become more aware and you're able to stay focused a lot easier. So keep working at it and don't give up on yourself, because certainly you are worth it. We are all worth it. You know, we're human beings. We've all got work to do, but these are some of the things that you can start to use, hopefully, that resonates with you or connects with you in some form or fashion. Here's a great picture of that one there. If anybody's interested, just message me after and I can send you this one. You can be pitiful or powerful, but you cannot be both. All right, tip number 7. Just gonna take a little sip of water. Any questions, Jen, or is everything good?
Nope, it's all good.
Okay.
Awesome tips. I'm making a lot of notes.
Oh, awesome, thank you. So tip number 7, your title does not define you, your actions do. So what I mean by this is for, you know, sometimes for ourselves or for maybe players on your team, they may feel like because they're an associate or a qualified associate that they don't have something to contribute to the field or to the conversation. And I really encourage people to not let their title define them. I was in the military for a number of years, and you are defined by your rank. You have your rank first, and you don't even have a first name, and you have your last name. Oftentimes you're just called by your rank, so you really have nothing that sort of separates you or defines you until you decide what your actions are. And I quickly realized the actions that I took would connect me with people in different ways, where maybe some people would feel that they weren't able to do so if they just lived by the definition of that rank. And I loved what Jay said the other day when he was telling us about his elevator pitch, saying that I'm a team leader with VoxxLife. And my heart almost just kind of fluttered there for a second, because I was like, you know, that's so true. That's such a great way to describe us, because a team leader is a leader of people, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a huge team within VoxxLife. You could be a leader of your customers for people, or your family could be looking at you, or whatever way that you want to define that. So I looked up what the definition of a team leader is, and what do you have to offer, and how do you go about doing it? Well, team leader is defined, as a clear communicator, somebody who's confident in their team, they're respectful of others, fair and kind, an example of integrity, and influential in core areas. And this is who we want to be as we participate in this business. And I say this because don't limit yourself as far as what your rank is, or what your title, or maybe your experience with VoxxLife is. But if you refrain from thought vomiting, and what I mean by that is, you know, just the first thing that maybe comes to your mind that you spit out there, you're better than that. So work on becoming a team leader. Work on having some of these attributes, because your integrity is worth it. So what I mean by that is, if you are commenting on VoxxNation or within some of the groups, I encourage people to take a look at some of these qualities of a team leader and work that into who they are. Because many of us know that if we see somebody who just posts like, oh, well, that sucks, you know, and that's their comment, you go, well, okay, well, I don't know where that person's at today. You know, they might just be having an off day. But maybe if we take that perspective of going, well, you know what? Yeah, it's unfortunate. Sometimes things happen. Not everything's perfect. But, you know, what have we done to be able to maybe adapt to that? Or what has worked for us? And say, you know, I felt the effects of this, for example, but I did this, that, and the other thing, and this worked out. Well, then people are going to look at that and think, well, that was pretty cool. I never thought of that. Or, you know, that impacts me too, but I never looked at it that way. So coming, like Ray was telling us a little bit about, and I know I refer to him a lot, but amazing training if you're not in rank makers. He said that one of his managers at one time said to him, don't bring me a monkey without a banana, which means don't bring me a problem without a solution. And I strongly encourage people to do that. I think that helps to develop who you are within our organization, and our groups have been open to all of us to participate in them. So participate like a team leader, use those attributes, don't bring a monkey without a banana, and that just helps the entire field. So tip number 8, get your money mindset right. So for a lot of people, talking about money is very uncomfortable, or they may feel like, oh geez, you know, they don't feel right about making money in this business, or they just want to give their product away and not worry about it. And, you know, it's about getting your energy right with your money, and depending on what you need and what you like to do. But it is okay to be making money in this business as well. The premise of Ikigai, which is in that opportunity video that we have, and Jaya spoke to us about before, you know, the world kind of goes around that way, and it's okay to be comfortable knowing that you're doing something that's helping somebody else, but it's also helping you. And one thing too that we're really learning in Rank Makers, as well as talking about Wealth Wednesday, that, you know, if you do make money, you can do more good for the entire world by doing so. So not to feel maybe oppressed by the fact that you feel uncomfortable about making money, or whatever the case may be. I like to keep my energy as clear as I possibly can in and around money, and I don't make that my prime focus for doing what I'm doing. Again, I marry the process of what's going on, about planting the seeds, the bigger picture, and the results that will come. There's sometimes, of course, you know, depending on what your financial situation is, you could have a lot riding on going to a show, or maybe it's a big investment for you. But I've really found that by kind of not thinking about, you know, what my show has cost me, or how much product that I've sold at the end of the day, has really changed things energetically for me. And I find that something always great, always comes from a show. You know, even if it's a small show, maybe a lot of people didn't attend. You know, here's a great example, and great in a story, that we were at a show this weekend, and on Sunday it was really, really slow. But we did have a few people come through. Over the weekend, my husband had an extreme toothache, ended up needing a root canal. So this morning he phoned a dentist. They said there's an emergency dentist in town. Phone them. They were closed, so he phoned another dentist, and they just had a cancellation, so he got in. So we go and we walk in the door, and the receptionist, I'm looking at her and go, man, she looks like a lady that was at our show this weekend. And sure enough, she was. So we got to talking. Well, she bought socks, and 2 of her friends from work, she was telling them all about it, and they all bought socks. So meanwhile, Punch is having a root canal, and I'm selling socks in the lobby. And they were teasing me it wasn't going to be enough to pay for the root canal, but it's one of those things. Even though the show was slow yesterday, and a person could have been like, you know, whatever, getting their energy all wrong about it, was like, it's okay. I know other things are going to come from it. And for whatever reason, we needed to connect with that lady, and there she was today. So one of the other things that we try to do too is, again, you know, not really talk too heavily about what our booth costs us, and think about that while we're at an event. And it's kind of like a little game that we play. We don't look at the total of our sales on our square until the show is over. And generally, if we're not there with a group of people, we wait until we're actually in the car and all packed up to take a look, because there's no doubt that if you're attaching that connection to that amount of money that you will be making for the show, that sometimes that can hinder you and block you a little bit too. Tip number 9 is to attend opportunity events, conferences, and get involved and get connected. There is so much value. I had no idea that when I got into this business that I was going to have the opportunity to meet so many amazing people, connect with so many people on so many different ways. And for me, because that's something that's of value to me, that has been probably one of the greatest gifts of this whole opportunity, is to be able to do so. Events, it's a great way to learn. It's a great way to connect and develop relationships with other people in the business. And oftentimes, because we are our own independent businesses, you know, we can feel like a lone wolf out there sometimes. And this is a great way to get together with other lone wolves and, you know, share our stories and hear testimonials and find ways to do things and to learn. you know, if there is an opportunity event in your area, get involved and participate. It was really great to be kind of overseeing the events that went on in Saskatchewan on this last year with Kevin Dugay. I was physically not there, but it was so wonderful to see so many people stepping up and taking roles, be it, you know, bring the balance mats and the banners, or just even getting the coffee table organized, or emceeing, or whatever it was. And I think it was a lot of fun for all of them too, to be able to start getting more engaged and more involved in those types of things. And also go out and show support for those smaller events in your areas, because those are organized by associates just like you. They're not funded by head office. They're not, you know, organized by head office. Those are just local associates who want to put something together to help support the field. So try to attend them as much as you can. It's an investment in you and your business, personal growth and development, and helps you step out of your comfort zone. So
can I just interject there? So that's a really great point, Carla. And lots of times I'll have people message me, because I like to do a lot of social stuff, team building and things like that. And I'll get people messaging me and saying, you know, are there any social events going on in my area? Take the initiative, and it really takes nothing to organize it. We do social events at a restaurant. So I do a little Facebook event and I book the restaurant. That's all I have to do. So
yeah, that's a great idea. And I've seen you guys doing that, and I thought, oh, that'd be awesome. You know, we have a tendency to be on the move all the time. We're always traveling, it seems, but I think that would be a great thing to get going in different places. And even if a few people come and you just talk, everybody shares their experience. It's a great way to connect.
Well, I remember back at our first one, I think we had 8 people. Now we're looking at 30 or 40. So,
yeah. And you know what? It's like anything. The people who come are the people who need to come, and it's always a good experience with them, whether it's 8, like you said, or 30, or whatever the case may be. You know, we're all there for the reason we need to be at the time. So
yeah, and you always learn something from someone. Absolutely, without a doubt.
And going back to talking a little bit about myself, you know, I've come a long way, I will say, but I'm quite introverted and I am shy. And probably the hardest thing for me to do is to just walk up to somebody and start talking to them. And I remember when we went to Vegas, and it had been just over a year since I've been involved in VoxxLife, and we had all kind of connected on Facebook. So we'd been talking to each other. And I told myself before I went, okay, you know what? I'm going to go there. And I'm going to force myself to go and introduce myself to you, Jen, and to Terry, and to Paul, and all the people that I'd sort of been communicating with, because I was like, that's really scary for me, but it's really valuable. And, you know, we work so closely together, all of us, all the time. It was really important to meet you guys and put a face to a name.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you did, because sometimes when you're at big events like that, you know, sometimes you don't meet all the key people that you really would hope to, right? So you gotta take the initiative and introduce yourself, or you know, hope that they introduce themselves to you.
Exactly.
And Rhonda says that she's having a Vox Tea Talk this week with her team.
Oh,
so,
excellent.
Yeah,
great job. Nice. Yeah, and whether it's, you know, just your team itself, or you just open up to anybody in the area, anything like that is just a great way to get together. And so many amazing people, like really, you get to know them, their family, their kids, and it really just, wow, makes my heart feel so good. I'm so proud of everybody, you know, and when I see my team members stepping up at events, or they're doing different things, it's like my heart just grows tremendously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I often say I bought a pair of socks to help me be a better golfer, and in turn it made me a better person.
There you go.
So there's a lot of different things that we still could do, you know, that outside of this realm of just creating a great foundation, a lot of other tips. But tip number 10 is, within all of this, is to find and maintain some balance, because going back to the fact that you are your business, if you don't take care of this, then there is no business. And, you know, that can be a tricky one to find that balance. I know there's been times where I'm up at 6 in the morning and I'm in front of my computer going, in my pajamas going, okay, I just got a couple things to do, and then I'm going to go do my workout. And then it's 3:30 in the afternoon and I'm still in my pajamas and I'm still working. And that's okay some days, but, you know, really taking care of yourself is going to make you more productive. It's going to make you, step away off you, see that clarity of mind, gives you extra energy, focus, it de-stresses you. So about having some balance. Time management is important because when you really do reflect on your time schedule, there is time to include all of those things as well. So this is a valuable thing to know, to be kind to yourself, have fun. Remember, this is about having fun. If you're not, find out some ways that you can make this fun for you. And I love this expression, just remember that you're flawsome. So embrace
I
the
love
fact,
it.
that we all have flaws, but regardless of those flaws, that we are all super awesome. So.
Yeah. Well, and Carla, I find in this business, I have a whole new circle of friends, but self-care is really a problem because I find that this industry and especially this company attracts people who care more about others than themselves. And so it's a very common problem that, you don't take the time to look after yourself. So a lot of the experts say, don't get on that computer until you've done your self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Right?
I used to work with a lady who was a triathlete, and she would come to work in the morning, and that morning she'd either ran or swam or both or whatever she had done. And I said, how do you do it? And she goes, Carla, I pay myself first, because if I don't take care of myself, I don't have
There you go.
anything for everybody else. And that really stuck with me. And I was, as a fitness instructor, it was fairly habitual for me to exercise in the morning, maintain that. But I found when I got into this, because I was just like, yeah, so attached to it all. And like I said, days in my pajama in front of the computer, that I kind of let that go to the wayside.
Yep.
But then I realized, I can feel myself getting out of balance. And now that I'm back to that, I include my learning, it's in my calendar. I feel like I feel so much better. I'm that much more productive.
Yeah.
And I think with it all, we're so blessed to have this technology as well, because with the sleeve on and the socks, my state of mind is much better. I have a lot of energy. I can work better. I can type faster with my sleeve. And so that just enhances everything that I'm doing to maintain that balance as well.
Yeah. And I tell you, just comment after comment after comment of what a wonderful, great put together presentation, awesome tips. You've done an outstanding presentation tonight, and I have to agree. What a great presentation, Carla. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Is that something that you might make available for others to share with their teams?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a PowerPoint, and I saved it in a PDF. So you can either share the video, or if you'd like the PDF, just send me a message, and
Wonderful.
I'd be happy to share that with you. Absolutely.
Awesome.
So thank you for saying that, everybody. And I'm glad that you found value. It's been nearly 3 years of, like I said, trying to figure out what direction to go in, what to do. But I do see my business and how it's evolving, and how the importance of fundamentally getting myself together and working on myself has been so critical to seeing those changes. Because I see now, even the people that how I talk to people, how I interact with them, it's made me a better leader, a bit easier to connect. And
gets easier, right?
Yeah, it gets easier. It does get easier. So don't give up on yourself. You're awesome. There's a lot to learn. Take the time to learn and just enjoy the ride.
One thing that I have the mindset of is this is not a race. It's not a sprint. I'm not trying to get to a destination. It's a way of life.
Right.
And I feel I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to have this way of life. It's a struggle in the beginning, like pushing that car up the hill. Had to have a few part-time jobs, sell a lot of socks, blah 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 blah. But now that I'm in my 3rd year, things are really starting to roll along, and my focus this year is helping my team grow and build. So yeah, and one of you, I'm not sure if it was point one or two, but don't sell, educate. Like, remove yourself from the sale.
Exactly.
You know, just talk about the product, and that's, I think, a great tip. So many new people I find just focus on, oh, I got to get them to buy it. I got to get them to buy it, you know. And if you just focus on educating people and trying to make their lives easier, love that tip.
Yeah. And I mean, we could talk a lot more about other things, like you'll hear a lot about follow-up, and that's a whole other training call, which is valued. But really wrapping your head around that has, you know, made us very successful in the field, you know, with sales. We do a lot of sales, but we're not salesy, and we just, you know, we're just there to share. So
great. Well,
great. Well, thank you for having me on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Like, I think this could have been absolutely like a 2-hour training for sure.
Well, I'm glad I kept looking at the clock, so thank you for sticking with me, you guys.
Awesome. Okay, so if you can either unmute everyone or maybe pass me back the controls.
Okay, how did we do that this afternoon? Control for me?
Oh, I think maybe I can take it back. Oh, I reclaimed. Oh, there we go. And I will just unmute everyone so we can all say goodnight.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Great training, eh?
Great job. Good night, everyone.
Excellent.
Bye.
Team.
I'm not going to have